There's a lot of energy about the restoration. I want to personally thank Frank. He came to me and asked me about it. I said, yeah, of course I would like to get involved, but it was his efforts and it was his energy that got this thing going, and I personally want to thank you for all this. I also have to thank the city, of course, because we're just one entity, but the city had a lot to do with it, and of course the city arts, Karen, and of course I've got to say that Peckman did an outstanding job. I looked at this and, well, I had a chance to peek at it actually a couple of days ago, and I was just really happy that, you know, what we wanted, they brought it to another level, and maybe the funding and the experience and the time wasn't there 17 years ago, but it's rare that you see a restoration actually look a little better than when we had started, and so my deepest thanks to all that were a part of that. I do want to say a little bit about the process, because sometimes, you know, we get caught up with things and the way it looks and so on, and we miss maybe some important stories that were a part of this. When I was approaching this, and I joined the Greenbush, the Workmen's Club, and I heard a lot about the Greenbush, of course. And when I decided to take on this opportunity, this challenge, I realized that there's no way, you know, one person can walk in and just say, you know, I think this is it right here, and there you go. So the first thing I did is to create a committee of people that were interested in joining. I think we had almost 30 people that joined this committee, because I have my stories from what I've heard, but then I want to hear firsthand what these stories were about. And that committee was absolutely the most amazing part of this experience. I mean, you can all look at the stone and the stuff that's here, but the heart and soul is the story of how these people contributed to this. I literally took a back seat and realized that I had no idea how to design this. And I was going to let this committee, let this energy kind of come to me and see what happens. And to watch them, well, it was kind of dysfunctional the first few minutes. First meetings were kind of like all over the board, you know, and then we had to put some order to it. And, you know, you can imagine a bunch of Italians and all the different people getting together with strong, you know, feelings of sharing. But once they put their mind to it, it was remarkable. It was absolutely remarkable. And I purposely didn't have an idea. If I came in with an idea, I was not going to do the right thing. And I let them basically dictate this for the first few months of what they came up with. And it was clear to me that it can't be a thing. A thing is not going to work. I could make a thing, there's the thing, but what would it mean? How could one thing represent such an incredibly diverse experience that spanned decades? The Greenbush wasn't just one period of time. The Greenbush had generations of Greenbush. So there was a lot of stuff there, and I thought, I can't do this like that. I'm going to have to take another approach. And so we decided, or I proposed, that I wanted words and images. And I wasn't sure how they were going to decide. And the first thing they said is, well, maybe not the first, but one of the clear things they said was, we're going to have 1/3 Italians, 1/3 African Americans, and 1/3 Jewish. That's going to be the first thing. And I want you to really grasp that, because that speaks exactly what this bush was about. The first decision making was, we're doing it together and equally. And it really, I want you to marinate on that for a second. They wanted to do it equally and together. Before anything, before an image was drawn out, before a sketch was done, that was how we proceeded. So I left it up to them to come up with the images. I gave them parameters. I said, it's got to be this many. Okay, that was an issue. And it's got to have many of this. That's an issue, because they all wanted every story in there was sacred. And I was not going to get into that battle at all. I let them make that decision, which they did. And I want that story to be heard, because that's a significant, if not the most telling thing about the Greenbush sculpture. It was really communally driven and designed, and I absolutely had no idea until probably several months after the committee that I started formulating a thought about what it was going to look like, which is a little bit daunting, but that nonetheless. Two other points I want to make, or maybe there's the next one, but I know I got a little time, and I am full-blooded Italian, so I will take that moment. You know, your quarter got you somewhere, but that I do want to have some symbolic thoughts. One is the stone is not from here. The white stone behind me came across the ocean. The black stone behind me is not from this neighborhood. And I want that to really resonate, because and particularly today, you know, we talk a lot about diversity, but yeah, well, there's a lot that the Greenbush was about. And I wanted something symbolic to at least say, okay, well, the material you're not finding here, it didn't grow up here. It's not from here. Just like all the people that were in the bush were not from here. The other thoughts were, I remember the wonderful energy and thoughtfulness of the committee members, how they really came to task. This was not a paid position. We met, trying to meet once a week. Where did we meet? We were meeting over in the neighbor house. Yes, we were meeting in the neighbor house, and you know, no one was putting, you know, they all volunteered to show up, meeting after meeting, and it was through their efforts that really constructed this. I just happened to be the guy that put them all together. I want to say one more thing, and I thought about it a little bit today. We talk about saving memorials like there's a great value in it. It's only the value that we care about that causes us to save those, right? Then the values here that I think about the Greenbush, and when I see it here and I experience it, it is amazing. It's amazing. We have so much to remember and learn by. This isn't some historical thing in the back that's kind of musty that we want our children to know because it's a history thing. It's a relevant thing, an incredibly relevant thing even for today. And particularly today, it's relevant. Particularly if you think that we've evolved into a greater sensibility than we did in the past, you think again. Read these and ask yourself, have we evolved? My question is, I would say we all have a lot to learn from the bush. We have a lot to learn from the bush, and that spirit of the bush is more important now than ever any other time I can ever remember. So not only is it timing that it needed to be fixed, it's also timing that it needs to be remembered. And I hope that it does that. And I want to tell everyone here that if it wasn't for the people that I mentioned, that we would be basically looking at, you know, Greenbush Part 2 buried somewhere under a hill of whatever. So thank you all for coming. Thank you so much for the people that are involved with the restoration. I really appreciate it. And thank you for keeping that Greenbush spirit alive. Thank you.